Hi, boys and girls. Turn to page 205 in your social studies textbook. And we've been learning about our country's history in chapter 6. And in the last lesson, lesson 2, we learned about how the Pilgrims came over to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and set up their colony, and they created their own little government with laws called the Mayflower Compact. In lesson 3, we are going to learn about how we fought for our freedom from England or Britain. Fighting for freedom. In the United States, we have many freedoms. Freedom is the right to make your own choices. It is one of the ideas on which our country was founded. Freedom from England. Long ago, most of the settlements along the eastern coast of North America were colonies of England or Britain. A colony is a settlement ruled by a country that is far away. By the 1700s, there were 13 colonies. These colonies were the beginning of the United States. Page 205. The colonists were people living in the colonies. For a long time, they did not mind being ruled by Britain. Then Britain's lawmakers began passing new laws. The colonists felt the laws were unfair. The colonists were also angry that they had no part in making the laws. Many of the laws included new taxes on goods from Britain, such as sugar and tea. A tax is money that people pay to the government. In 1773, some colonists dumped tea into Boston Harbor. This is known as the Boston Tea Party. The colonists said they would rather throw away tea than pay taxes on it. Fighting broke out between colonists and soldiers who had been sent from Britain. This fighting was the beginning of the American Revolution or Revolutionary War. In a revolution, people fight for a change in government. So I want to just point out a couple of things. At the bottom of page 204, we have a fast fact that says the Boston Tea Party was an action taken in 1773 by colonists who were angry about taxes on tea. The colonists dumped 348 crates of tea into Boston Harbor. And then back on 205, you can see the 13 colonies that were ruled by England or Britain. So you can see all the way along the eastern coast of the United States, from Maine all the way down to Georgia, including New Jersey. Okay, let's turn the page to page 206. A declaration is made. In 1776, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and other leaders of the colonies met in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They wrote a statement listing reasons the colonists wanted independence. Independence is freedom from another country's control. The statement is called the Declaration of Independence. It says that all people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty means freedom. On July 4th, 1776, the leaders voted to accept the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration said that the colonies no longer belonged to Britain. They were now states in a new country, the United States of America. You can see the picture on the left here. The Declaration of Independence was worked on by Benjamin Franklin, who you guys know is one of my favorites, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. And then we have down at the bottom of the page, this is what the Declaration of Independence actually looks like. It was written on parchment paper. It says that this photograph of the Declaration of Independence shows what Thomas Jefferson wrote and who signed it. Notice, boys and girls, that it was written in cursive, which we're learning right now. The first part of the Declaration is called the preamble. This says why the colonists wanted independence. One of the colony leaders, John Hancock, wrote his name large. The term John Hancock came to mean a person's written name or signature. So you might hear an expression like, put your John Hancock right here at the bottom of this letter, and that means to put your signature there. All right, page 207, the war begins. The Revolutionary War began in 1775, a year before the Declaration of Independence was written. George Washington was chosen to lead the American troops against Britain. Washington's army was made up of colonists who wanted to help. They were not well trained and sometimes had to get supplies from the towns for which they were fighting. The British soldiers, though, were better trained. Their supplies were sent to them on ships from Britain. The American soldiers fought many battles. They won some, but they lost others. In 1783, so that is 8 years later, the Americans finally won the war and their independence from Britain. The United States is still an independent country today. So at the top here, this is actually a piece of art that is cut into wood. This woodcut shows George Washington and his army crossing the Delaware River. And on the right here, we have a picture of what American soldiers wore during the Revolutionary War. Okay, page 208. New laws are made. After the war, people in the United States could make their own laws. They formed a government for the new nation. However, the new government turned out to be weak. By 1787, the country's leaders decided they needed a new constitution. A constitution is a set of laws that tells how a government will work. The leaders wanted to form a government that was strong enough to get things done, but would not take away freedoms. They met in Philadelphia to write the Constitution of the United States. In 1788, the Constitution was approved. The Constitution helped found the Republic of the United States. The leaders were proud of the country they had started. A feeling of pride in one's country is called patriotism. One of the reasons why we say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. This painting shows the signing of the Constitution of the United States. And in the top left here, we have a picture of the Constitution that starts with that famous phrase, "We the people." Okay, page 209, the last page in this lesson. Our first president. The new Constitution said that the people would choose a president or leader for the country. On April 30th, 1789, Americans chose General George Washington to become their first president. He is often called the father of our country. You see a picture to the right. George Washington arriving in New York City to be sworn in as president. New York City is where our government was originally located, and now we know it's located in Washington, D.C. So boys and girls, just to summarize, the American colonists fought for freedom from Britain in the Revolutionary War. After the war, their leaders wrote the Constitution of the United States of America. And here's also is a picture of a quarter coin featuring George Washington.